I've always loved the bayou, its surreal tranquility a balm for my city-weary soul. But one sultry July night changed everything. The stifling heat of the day had given way to an eerie chill, moonlight glinting off the stagnant water. My old fishing boat, the Bayou Bell, was the only source of life amidst the moss-draped cypress trees. That night, the frog's rivets were mysteriously absent, leaving an unnerving silence. Suddenly, an ethereal melody drifted across the murky water. It was sweet yet somehow mournful, sending shivers down my spine. I strained my eyes into the inky darkness, looking for the source, but saw nothing. Curiosity piqued, I followed the haunting refrain. The bell groaned in protest as we pushed deeper into the bayou. The air became thick with fog and decay, the light of my lantern barely piercing the gloom. The melody grew louder, and so did a sense of foreboding. I stumbled upon a clearing illuminated by a ghostly light. There, amidst the still water, floated a spectral woman. Dressed in ragged colonial attire, she was singing to a baby cradled in her transparent arms. My heart pounded as I reached for my crucifix. Her luminous eyes met mine, filled with an indescribable sadness. She pointed a translucent finger towards the darkened path leading deeper into the swamp, her song tapering off into a desperate plea. Against my better judgment, I followed. The vegetation grew denser and a smell of rotting vegetation hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath me. I fell into a hidden pit, my scream swallowed by the bayou. When I regained consciousness, I was not alone. Skeletal remains, still clad in tarnished uniforms, were scattered around me. In my horror, I realized the pit was a forgotten grave, a grim relic of some bygone war. A mournful wail echoed from above. The ghostly woman was there, looking down at me, her tears falling like liquid silver. Her eyes held an apology and a warning, her message clear. I was a prisoner of the past, just like them. As I write this on a scrap of weathered parchment, I can still hear her lullaby. I've tried to climb out, but the pit's walls are too slick, too steep. My shouts for help only frighten the creatures of the swamp. I'm alone, trapped in the depths of the bayou. I only hope this message finds its way out, a cautionary tale for those who would delve too deep into the bayou's secrets. Fear the melody in the night. It is not a call, but a lament. Remember me, the last sailor of the Bayou Bell.
The lone cabin, isolated in the heart of a snowbound forest, has always been my haven, a place to escape from the bustle of life. But as I arrived this time, the snowflakes dancing around me seemed less welcoming, more menacing. The first night, the biting chill is more pronounced than I remember. The wind howls, carrying with it a foreboding whisper. The falling snow seems to cloak the cabin in an eerie silence that's disrupted only by its own sibilant murmurs. As dawn breaks, the relentless snowfall has covered all traces of my arrival. My vehicle, the pathway, everything is buried beneath a sea of white. It's strangely personal, like the snow is erasing me from the world outside. Days morph into nights with an unsettling haste. The snowfall never ceases. Instead, it thickens, blanketing my world in white. My attempts to reach the outside world prove futile. The snow smothers every cry for help, swallowing every beacon of hope. I feel an uncanny sense of sentience from the snow. It's not merely a force of nature. It feels purposeful, strategic. The door and windows are blocked, trapping me in. Every effort to dig out is met with an unyielding wall of ice and cold, almost as if it's pushing back. Sleep becomes a luxury as the howling wind and falling snow take on sinister undertones. I hear it murmuring my name in a haunting lullaby. It's learning, adapting, using my fears against me. Its white tendrils creeping into my nightmares, blurring the line between sleep and waking. My food supply dwindles. The snow, the all-consuming beast, has isolated me from the world, starving me, driving me to the brink of madness. Even the warmth of the hearth feels like a mockery, a futile resistance against an enemy that can't be combated. One day, in a desperate act of defiance, I set a chair ablaze and push it out into the storm. The snow recoils, but only for a moment. Then it engulfs the flame, the white swallowing the orange, growing heavier, more oppressive. The final stage of my imprisonment is the most horrifying. The cabin, my refuge, becomes my tomb. The whispers of the snow grow softer, more intimate, like a predator calming its prey. My strength ebbs away, and the snow's icy breath becomes a soothing serenade. I can almost hear it chuckle as my vision fades, as my heartbeat slows. Its cold, icy tendrils embrace me in a final, fatal hug. I am but another victim, another trophy in its ceaseless winter conquest. The snow is the silent, merciless executioner. In the heart of the forest, the cabin remains a silent witness to the snow's horrifying reign, my existence wiped clean by the ceaseless, sentient storm.
In my childhood, a towering hollow tree sat at the edge of our property. It loomed ominously, its cavernous hollow gaping like an open wound. Nobody in our small town ventured near it, succumbing to the foreboding folklore that surrounded it. On an overcast afternoon, overcome by curiosity, I gathered my courage and approached the tree. Its ancient bark was cold, and a chill ran down my spine as I peered into the hollow. To my surprise, it was not empty, but housed a dust-covered chest. Opening the chest revealed a single, rusted key. An inexplicable urge gripped me to touch it. As my fingers closed around the cold metal, an unearthly groan echoed from the depths of the tree. A hidden doorway in the hollow swung open, revealing a spiraling staircase descending into pitch black. The key seemed to thrum with energy in my hand, urging me onward. With a deep breath, I descended. Deeper and deeper I went, until the soft green daylight above dwindled into a tiny pinprick. I stepped into a vast, dark cavern. Crude symbols glowing ominously adorned the walls. An iron door covered in similar glyphs stood at the cavern's end. I inserted the key and it opened with a grating noise. Beyond the door, I stepped into a realm of perpetual darkness. Haunting cries echoed in the distance and the air was rank with decay. Shadows twisted and writhed, forming grotesque shapes. Horrid creatures, the stuff of nightmares, roamed this unholy realm. Their glowing eyes watched my every move. An unbearable terror seized me. I had to escape. I sprinted back towards the door, only to find it gone. Panic rose like bile as I realized I was trapped in this horrific world. Days turned into weeks. I lived in constant fear, haunted by monstrous beings and plagued by unspeakable horrors. Eventually, I found my way back to the tree, guided by the faint glow of the symbols. As I re-emerged into my world, I was struck by an appalling sight. My town was in ruins, overgrown with weeds and eerily silent. The townsfolk were gone, their homes reduced to derelict structures. Time in that dreadful realm had taken a horrifying toll on my world. The hollow tree stands there still, a terrifying portal to a nightmarish realm. The rusted key lies hidden, waiting for the next curious soul. If you ever stumble upon it, remember my tale and beware of the horrors that lie within.
When I inherited my great-aunt's house in the countryside, I was intrigued by an old stone well located at the edge of the property. Despite its dilapidated state, it seemed to be the only structure untouched by time. One day, overcome by curiosity, I decided to peer into the well's dark abyss. Dropping a small pebble in, I expected to hear a splash, but there was nothing, just an oppressive silence. Suddenly I heard a faint echo, like the soft whimpering of a child. I shook off the eerie feeling, telling myself it was just the wind. But the whimpering turned into crying, growing louder and more desperate. It seemed to be emanating from the bottom of the well. I panicked, dropping the rope tied to a bucket into the well. As I started lowering the bucket, the rope jerked violently, almost pulling me in. The crying ceased abruptly, replaced by a chilling laughter that echoed from the depths. Terrified, I released the rope, but it stayed suspended, defying gravity. Then, to my horror, the rope started to rise. I stumbled back as the bucket emerged, carrying a small, tattered doll, its eyes missing, a chilling grin stitched onto its face. That night, I was tormented by nightmares of the well and the doll. I would wake up to the sound of laughter, only to find the doll at the foot of my bed, those empty eye sockets seemingly watching me. The next day, I decided to return the doll to the well. As I approached, the well seemed darker, more sinister. I tossed the doll in, relief washing over me. But as I turned to leave, I felt a tug on my leg. Looking down, I saw a small bony hand clutching my ankle, the doll's lifeless eyes staring back at me. I screamed, trying to pull away, but the grip tightened. I could hear the laughter again, now filled with malicious glee. It's been 3 days since I've been trapped here, the cold, bony hand my only company. I can hear the laughter echoing from the depths, the doll's eyes never leaving mine. I'm writing this as a warning, hoping someone finds it before venturing near the well. Beware the well at the edge of the property. Its depths house a malevolent presence. If you hear a cry for help, do not be fooled. Whatever is down there, it's not a child, but something much more sinister.
As a botanist, the discovery of an uncharted island, shrouded in dense greenery, was the opportunity of a lifetime. So I packed my gear and set sail, oblivious to the nightmares that awaited. On arrival, I was mesmerized by the lush flora, but what caught my eye were the vines. Unlike any I'd ever seen, they were thick and pulsated as if alive, their dark green hue speckled with crimson. Ignoring my growing unease, I ventured deeper, collecting samples. Suddenly, I noticed one of the vines twitch, seemingly in response to my touch. Intrigued, I reached out again, only for it to whip around and wrap around my wrist, its grip alarmingly strong. Startled, I tried to free myself, but the vine tightened, thorns breaking skin. With a rush of adrenaline, I managed to cut it off using my pocket knife. But to my horror, the severed vine writhed violently, while a low, inhuman growl echoed from the depths of the forest. That night, my camp was invaded by the vines. They crept silently, their thorny tendrils poking through the fabric of my tent. I awoke to a chilling sensation, a vine wrapped around my ankle, its thorns breaking skin. Fear turned into panic as the vines tightened their hold, dragging me out of the tent. I fought, slashing at them, but they were relentless. The forest seemed to come alive, the vines moving in a terrifying symphony, pulling me deeper. By the break of dawn, I was in the heart of the island, surrounded by a labyrinth of pulsating vines. They had stopped dragging me, but held me captive, tightening if I struggled. I was their prisoner. Days turned into nights. I grew weak, trapped in the relentless grasp of the vines. Their grip was unyielding, the wounds on my skin a constant reminder of my grim fate. But I'm a scientist at heart. I studied the vines, observing their behavior, looking for a pattern. I noticed they recoiled at the sound of a particular bird's cry. It was a ray of hope, a possible key to my escape. With newfound determination, I spent the next day imitating the bird call. Each attempt was met with a tightening grip, their thorns piercing deeper, but I persisted. After countless trials, I managed to replicate the bird's cry, the vines retracting in response. Seizing the opportunity, I pulled free from their loosened grip and ran. I sprinted through the dense forest, my calls echoing, keeping the encroaching vines at bay. The island fought back, the ground beneath me quaking, but I didn't stop. As I burst through the tree line, the sight of my abandoned boat fueled my dwindling strength. I dove into the water, the vines trailing behind, recoiling at the touch of the salt water. Exhausted but free, I managed to start the boat and navigated away from the island. I watched as it disappeared into the horizon. The pulsating vines, a horrifying reminder of my ordeal. So if you ever come across an uncharted island shrouded in luscious greenery, beware the bewitching beauty. It's not a paradise, but a prison, ruled by sentient, malevolent vines. It's a reminder that not all uncharted territories yearn to be discovered. Some secrets are better left untouched.
The day started like any other, with the morning sun casting long shadows across my bedroom. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a comforting routine. But as I sat up, a wave of confusion washed over me. I couldn't remember anything from the day before. It was as if someone had taken an eraser to the chalkboard of my mind, wiping away the events of yesterday. I dismissed it as a side effect of a restless night, but little did I know, it was just the beginning. Days turned into weeks, and the blankness started to creep closer. By the time the sun set, the morning was a distant, foggy memory. My life was turning into a series of disconnected moments, like a film reel with frames missing. I tried to hold on, to grasp at the fleeting memories, but they were elusive, always just out of reach. It was like trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. In an attempt to combat this terrifying phenomenon, I started leaving notes for myself, scribbled reminders of the day's events, conversations I had, meals I ate, places I visited. But soon, even those became meaningless. I'd find a note in my own handwriting and have no recollection of writing it. It was like reading a stranger's diary, a chronicle of a life that was supposedly mine, but felt alien. My wife, Sarah, was my rock during this turbulent time. She'd remind me of our shared past, of the love we had for each other. She'd show me pictures of us, laughing, dancing, living. But as the days passed, even her face started to become unfamiliar. I'd look into her eyes, the same eyes I'd fallen in love with, and feel a pang of fear. Who was this woman who claimed to love me? How could she love a man who couldn't remember his own life? Desperate for answers, I visited doctors, neurologists, psychologists, anyone who could possibly help. They ran tests, scanned my brain, gave me pills, but nothing worked. My memory was a sinking ship, and I was going down with it. Each forgotten day was a piece of me lost to the abyss. One day, I woke up in a room I didn't recognize. White walls, sterile smell, a single window with bars. I looked around, panic rising in my chest. I was alone, utterly alone. I screamed, but no one came. I was a prisoner in my own mind, trapped in the present, with no past to anchor me. Days, weeks, months passed. I don't know how long I've been here. Time has lost its meaning. I write this down, hoping that tomorrow, when I read it, I'll remember. But deep down, I know I won't. I'm losing myself, one day at a time. And the scariest part is, I don't even remember what I'm losing. My name, my past, my identity, all fading away into nothingness. I'm a ghost, haunting the shell of the man I used to be. I'm a stranger to myself, lost in the labyrinth of my own mind. And the most terrifying part? I don't know if I'll ever find my way out.
Thank you for watching. If you like this content and would like more, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps bring more viewers like you.